Welcome to the Irish Whale and Dolphin Group. Our mission is the conservation and better understanding of whales, dolphins and porpoises in Irish waters through study, education and interpretation.
We coordinate all Ireland's stranding and sighting schemes to learn what species occur where and when. This helps us to develop conservation policies and strategies, but also to help people go out and see these magnificent creatures in Irish waters for themselves.
We run a research vessel, Celtic Mist, for our members to sail on and learn how to identify and record whales, dolphins and porpoises in Ireland.
Our local groups are made up of lots of different people with a shared passion for whales and dolphins in Ireland and the oceans. We run many long-term projects, including the Shannon Dolphins and Whale Track Ireland.
Our work is also international. We have travelled to Iceland and Cabo Verde as we share whale populations with these island nations.
Our consulting wing provides specialist services to inform management and industry and generates income to support our work.
The island of Ireland is only 10% of the whole of Ireland. The other 90% is a marine environment and home to some of the most amazing marine wildlife in the world.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Science Week 2024. The theme of Science Week 2024 is regeneration, and it runs from the 10th of November to the 17th of November. So this is part of our series of Can We Speak Whale, which are a series of webinars taking place every evening at this time. So my name is Claire Kelly. I'm the Education and Outreach Officer with the Irish Whale and Dolphin Group. We have Mags Daly here in the studio. She is the Shannon Dolphin Project Officer, and our Nick Massett is our guest, who is with Whale Track Ireland. So welcome, Nick.
Hiya.
Yeah. So I'll start with Mags, who's going to take a closer look at photo identification, which is our topic for tonight.
Hi, as Claire said, I'm Mags and I'm the Shannon Dolphin Project Officer for the Irish Whale and Dolphin Group. So basically, this is a bottlenose dolphin you can see here, and as you can see, this is 217, and she is surfacing because obviously as mammals they have to surface to breathe air, so we get opportunities then to photograph them at the surface that you wouldn't really get with sharks most of the time, or the other megafauna like that. So you can see here from this picture, we've got a picture of 3 bottlenose dolphins surfacing together, and if you look at their dorsal fins, that's the fin on the top of the back there. It kind of runs halfway through the body, it's positioned halfway along the body. And if you can see in the first animal on the left hand side, that's number 6, and you can see she's got what we call a notch in the middle of her fin, at the back of the fin there, and that's basically their kind of fighting or social interactions really is how they're gaining these. So another dolphin basically grabbed onto her fin and tore it. You can see then the middle animal is Storm. She's got teeth marks all right from other dolphins, but there's no nicks or notches taken out of the fin. And then that's Daniel at the back, and she has multiple notches. So that's what we're using to identify individual dolphins. So we're out on this, we do surveys on tour boats and we use our own vessels. So again, we photograph any of the dolphins that we encounter. And then we can build catalogues and we can try and find out how many animals are in this population and where those animals are and what are they doing. You can see here, these two animals, they don't have any nicks or notches from their fins, but if you notice the shape of the fin, they're really quite different from each other. That's 312 on the left, also known as Prometheus. He's got a very straight line. You see the front of the fin is what we call the leading edge, and that's very straight on him. Whereas if you look then at the top, compared to Talon, also known as 180, if you see the top of the fin kind of curves. The top of the fin in both of them are also quite different. Prometheus has a kind of blunt, kind of rounded, whereas Talon, then that's how he got his name. It's really kind of sharp and pointed. He's very distinctive. You can match both of those extremely easily. We use all the things you can see here on, this is Cree 826. You can see those lines, those are what we call rake marks. Again, they're grabbing onto each other and biting. And if you see the one there, they're quite dark and short, and there's a white line going through it. You can see that they've cut down into the skin, through the skin and into the blubber with that one. So, but bottlenose dolphins have amazing regenerative powers in their skin. They can heal those rake marks in a very short period of time. So what we try to do then is to follow each animal through time. When the project, it was first set up in 1993, and you can see the picture on the left there is Notch. Notch is number 1. He's the first animal that was ever added to the catalogue. And you can see his fin there from 1993 to 2009, and then in 2014. And you can see there's very little change in the fin. There's some changes between 93 and 2009. That a bit has been pulled off the fin up, the middle notch there. But really, there's no change into 2014. What you see changes then are basically in the pigmentation, and he's a lot of skin lesions there. Whereas then if you look at Danu, she was also in the first picture. If you look at the difference in her between 2008 and 2024, you can see that the very bottom notch has gotten slightly larger. Basically what happened is as they age, the notch, the skin or the area, the integument as we call it, it's called necrosis. It will basically die. So the notch can get slightly bigger and slightly change in shape. They can also pull off notches. If you see, she's another 2 little notches as you go further up. But then she gained a new one just above that, and it changed the shape of the third one up. So it does require you photographing the dolphins really quite regularly, and that you're continuing to get all of the dolphins. It's not good enough if you just are focusing on one part of the range or anything like that. You need to get all of the dolphins pretty much throughout the year. In 2012 then, Izzy Baker was doing her PhD on the dolphins, and she started adding all animals into the catalogue. So when an animal was born, they were added to that catalogue then, and we started tracking what females were having calves, were those calves surviving, and she found that 13% of the calves will die within the first year. You need a lot of years really to kind of build up this kind of data, for mothers to have multiple calves. You can see who is a successful mother and who isn't. This was the first calf that was added to the catalogue, and I'm actually talking about the animal in the background. See her there, she's one little notch in her fin. She's actually the first known daughter of Seraphina. She was in the first picture. And so she was the first calf added to the catalogue. And then she herself then went on to have her own first calf when she was 7. This is young enough for a bottlenose. Normally generally it's about 9 or 10 is generally when they start to have them. And so this first baby then had the first, at the time, grandbaby into the catalogue. So we're tracking them through generations. Nala would be a second generation animal, which means we know who her mother is. And 886 then is a third generation, so we know who the grandmother of that animal is. This is probably one of the top prize pictures you want to get, bottlenose photo ID. This is showing the underside, as we sometimes refer to, but it's really the genital area, so that we can tell if an animal is a male or female. And that's important to know when you're trying to monitor a population, so you know, okay, this female is 20 years old and has never had a calf, as opposed to not knowing if that's a male, So they're very hard to get. some years I'm very lucky and I can get 6 or 7. Other years I might get 1 or 2. So this is Lou in the inner estuary. I didn't get this genital shot until I think he was 11 before I got it. So I mean, a lot of them can make me wait for years. We have one little one. His name is Magic. He gave me 4 matchable sequence of his genitals by the time this animal was 2 years of age. He's one of my favorites. He's one of the most adorable dolphins. He's also a bit of a loon. This is Danu again. So what we're doing, we're not just using the photo ID to say, okay, well, we've this many dolphins and this is where we are. We can get a lot more from it than that. If you notice the calf with Danu, this is her second known calf. This was Patch. And if you can notice, it's kind of lumpy and the tail back of the body really is kind of twisted. This is scoliosis. It's a curvature of the spine. Several things can cause this. Most likely in Patch's case, it's congenital. It's an issue that he was basically born with. So he was fine kind of for the first year, but then after about a year, it started to become noticeable. And as he got older, the fin kind of, or the back kind of twisted more. Scoliosis, it can also happen from physical trauma. Scottish, another population of bottlenose in Scotland, they're known as the Moray Firth. They would have quite a high percentage of scoliosis, and they know that a lot of them are getting it from males attacking the calf and the mother, so they can kill the calf, and then would they believe it to kill the calf and then to gain access to the mother for reproduction. So that can happen with them. Unfortunately, Patch didn't survive. This would cause obviously major issues with their swimming. He wouldn't be able to swim as fast. The last time he was seen was up at Foynes in County Limerick, and the group of dolphins were being watched from land, and all of the dolphins went off to Barride tanker. Basically, they use it like a bus surface, so it kind of pushes them down the estuary, and all the dolphins were swimming fast over to Barride, but unfortunately Patch couldn't keep up, and that was the last time Patch was seen. Bottlenose dolphins are exceptionally social animals. They're quite like us in that way. They live in a society that we call fission fusion. So basically they come together and then they break up. Basically what it means is the groups are kind of shuffling. Sometimes they'll spend time with their mother, other times they'll go off and hang out with teenagers, and it can really depend on the stage of their life as well. But they do build really long-term associations, and it's photo ID that has allowed us to find that out and to understand how they socialize together. This is 2 animals from who we call the innies. Basically, they kind of inhabit the inner estuary. Up as far as Limerick City, down as far as maybe Bale, they would be around Tarbert, for long periods of time during the day at Money Point. And then they might go further west to start hunting salmon at Bale, depending on the tides. You can see here the paler animal is Astral, or is Fia, and you can see that Fia is kind of using her pectoral fins on the side of the body, and she's rubbing Astral's head. Like us, again, touch and body language is super important to them. It's their own language like it is for us. So they can be quite gentle with each other. It's not just all pulling bits out of their fins and scraping each other. They're not all limited. So over obviously the 30 years, we've been able to kind of build up a good picture of at least, some parts of the population. Again, this is the innie family trees, basically. You can see the females with then their calves, and you can see then the grandbabies. We have the group of guys then that like to hang out with the innies. Kevin Costner, Jado, Talon, and Prometheus would be another 2 of those. We do know the sex of most of the inner estuary. We just had 2 last year that we didn't know, but we have confirmed now that Norma Jean is in fact a male. So Norma Jean's name got changed for obvious reasons. And then if you look at an individual family tree, you can see here this is 4 generations together. So this is Serafina with her sibling then Astral. Their mother is Sulis 200. You can see then how we can track what calves Serafina was having and who survived. And we now have the 4 generations, as I said. You can see 200 has 2 great grandbabies. And we had several sightings this year of Sulis 200 with her granddaughter Nala and the great grandbaby. So there is strong familial relationships with them as well. That would vary though per individual. Another thing we can figure out from photo ID is actually what they're eating. You can see Storm here, and Storm has a salmon swallowing it head first. They have to swallow the fish head first, otherwise the fins could open and get caught in their throat and they can actually choke to death on it. They do sometimes do a bit of playing with their food. We don't know, is it playing or are they showing dominance on the big boy? I got this. It does mainly, but not always. Like, we don't know if Storm's male or female. It is mainly males that you would see doing that. But we've calves throwing fish as well. It has also allowed us to identify really important foraging areas. There's areas where, for instance, like Tarbert, where they do everything. They'll socialize, they'll rest, they'll hunt, they'll live out really their whole lives there. But Bale in particular on the North Kerry coast is exceptionally important for one of their main prey species, which would be salmon. Salmon is obviously very high in fat. It's very nutritious for them. It's really important to them. And they have figured out if they go to Bale on basically the flood tide, they're basically facing west. It's a big sandbar. The salmon don't have as much depth to escape them. So basically they just can pick them off. So it's so easy. Flood tide, Bale, dolphins. You know, you just have to sit there and someone's going to turn up. And it can be anyone in the population. It wouldn't just be the innies. It could be animals that you would normally see out at Loop Head or anything like that. As I said, they also like to play. Seaweed would be one of their most frequently observed toys, I suppose to call them. They like to do a lot of tossing. They do tug of war, things like that. They'll also play with jellyfish. They can play with flossins. They can play with lots of things, but it will be seaweed and jellyfish. Like, I've seen them tossing jellyfish and just, you know, they can play volleyball. They just bounce it between one tail fluke to the other. Like, they are very social. So then in 2008, there was a survey. One of the Irish marine vessels was Celtic Voyage, and they were passing along Brandon, and they found bottlenose dolphins. So some photographs were taken, and it was confirmed that they were Shannon dolphins. So it was always believed that they were limited to the Shannon. Obviously, that's how they got their name. But we know now that that is different. I go and I survey Brandon nearly every year now, well, every year actually, and I never go to Brandon Bay and don't see dolphins. They're also in Tralee Bay, but not as frequently as they would be in Brandon. And like, if you see these two animals here, the first one in the foreground is actually a calf of Faye. And so 847 was born and was raised in the inner estuary, but decided then when they become to teenagers, they can kind of leave their mother's group. Some will stay, most will leave. They'll hang out. That's where the teenagers are, is Brandon. There's a group of them. They're kind of at the top, the northern edge of the half of the bay really is where the big groups of teenagers would be hanging out. So they cause me a fierce amount of problems because these are juveniles and younger adults that are coming from everywhere. So all of a sudden I have these dolphins. I'm like, who are you? I mean, I've been doing this for 8 years now. I should know all of them, but no, they just keep coming and they really are quite frustrating. Loop Head is another really important place, and working from land is quite handy. You won't get the same quality of images, but there's absolutely no disturbance. This is 203 and 247, also known as Fathom. They're there swimming along it at Loop Head, don't even know I'm there. So they can give a really good opportunity. Loop Head is extremely important, and not only on the estuary side, but actually on the Atlantic side itself. We see them most, not every survey obviously, but most surveys we get them there. So then when I was a student in college, about 2016, Simon Burrow, our CEO, was one of my lecturers. He was talking about basket sharks. Oh, I might go sampling. So I nagged him until he said yes, he would go sampling. So out we went to try and find sharks. But what we also found were bottlenose dolphins. Took some pictures, and Izzy matched them to the Shannon dolphin population. So again, that's the first sighting of them up so far. Then I was out again with Simon on the rib one day from Jumbeg, and we came across this group. It was a massive group. Normally group sizes would be around 9 to 12. I know I didn't photograph them all, and I have 47 matched dolphins from that sighting. There was probably 55, 60 animals in that sighting. You can see the one in the first and the foreground. That's 217. She had not been seen, and the one in the absolute background, they hadn't been seen. I saw them there in 2022. They had not been seen in the Shannon for over 5 years. And then I went back. I couldn't get there for about a year. Then I got there again this summer, and again it's the same animals that I had not seen since that sighting. So the range is not just the Shannon; it is much further than that. And you can see where the blue is basically the Shannon, what was believed to be their home range. But we know we have added the green, turquoisey green onto it now. You see Brandon Bay down as far as Sauce Creek, and then along the Clare coast up as far as Dunbeg. Then there was one day, it was during COVID, and I was updating one of the hard drives, and I thought it was the backup of our stuff, so I said I just add the new stuff. But I found out then it was actually the citizen science, the public reporting bottlenose dolphin sightings to the Irish Whale and Dolphin Group that had attached images. Those images are so powerful. So I saw a loophead sighting. I thought, okay, I'll copy this and make sure that we have it in our work to do. And then there was another sighting from Ventry. Because I have a bit of an addiction problem to this stuff, I said, I just have a look. So I had a look, and lo and behold, who is it but Shannon dolphins off Ventry, basically Dingle. So I rang Nick Massett, who was with us here this evening, and I said, Nick is more focused on the whales. But Nick, any chance, if you see any bottlenose, would you mind getting a couple of shots just so I can confirm they're Shannon dolphins? He's like, no problem, Mags. He calls me, what was it, 3 or 4 hours later, Nick, and says, Mags, you wouldn't believe it. I was out today, and what did I see? But bottlenose dolphins. I got some pictures for you. Who were they but Shannon? So I was like, oh, okay, like, how far are these animals going? This is getting out of hand, like. So Nick now has been very good and has been capturing some sightings and photo ID for me down there as well, as is Dave O'Connor and Jonathan Little, like on the tour boats from the Blaskets or from Ventry, you know. So it is really citizen science. You cannot stress enough how important this stuff is. I went down myself to go on one of the tour boats down there, Mick Sheeran's boat from Ventry, and again there was a massive group of bottlenose. They were there a lot of the summer. They're there in the springs, and then they're there then more in the autumn. But that's kind of changing slightly. Has this always been happening? We don't know. Without photo ID, you can never definitively say they were there, they weren't there. You don't know if it was coastal maybe that were there before versus Shannon now. Is the range expanding? I have a lot more work really to do that. So if historical pictures or phone videos will help me ID that. So if people do have that, that would be amazing. It would really contribute to the project. So once I figured this out, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to take over doing all bottlenose photo ID that comes through to us now. This is getting ridiculous, like, but okay. So I got onto Pádraig Cooley, our sighting officer, and said, if a bottlenose sighting comes in with pictures, that must come to me. No problem, Mags. A couple of months later, we hear about this sighting of bottlenose dolphins in the Boyne off Drogheda. Fierce excitement about this. I think that all of Drogheda went out to see that dolphin. Finally got pictures in that evening from a local photographer, Aidan Kern. So I just said, I was lying in bed, I was just about to fall asleep, and I said, sure, I just have a look at it, because again, I have a bit of a problem with this stuff. So I said, I'll have a look. I'm not going to know it because it's not going to be a Shannon, but I'll look at it anyway. I looked at it, and then I saw this, and then I nearly fell out of my bed and fell over my duvet trying to get to my computer. Luckily, it was COVID lockdown, so all of my stuff, work stuff, was at home with me. So there I was until 12 o'clock that night, identifying, yes, it's definitely him. I called Stephanie, who is our stranding officer, and she worked on the project for many years, still does. So we confirmed, yes, we are 100%. This is Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner is called Kevin Costner. He can be protective of the females and their calf, so they called him that because for the bodyguard, not because of Waterword, which is normally the question. The reason people think he was named that. So it's 100%. There's no question that this is Kevin. So I put up a slide. Now, Kevin is one of the originals, like Notch. One of the first animals he's number 8. He was first photographed in 93. He's an inner estuary animal. If I saw him at Loop Head, I'd be surprised. What is he doing in the Boyne? That was fine. So then I put up a post on social media, and Sea-Watch, which would be the Shannon Dolphin project basically in Wales for the Cardigan Bay dolphins. And Shara sent this on, Mags, we think we have a sighting of Kevin in the Merseyside, basically. So you can see here on the left is the original part of the original photo that was sent in, and on the right are the comparison photos. The bottom is the zoomed in picture of that, and the top is a picture of Kevin from the estuary. You can see the shape of the fin is the same, the notches are the same, and you can see the red arrow pointing to that white scar. There's no question, this is Kevin. We got another picture in from Sea-Watch about 10 days later, and here's Kevin up to his normal business, obviously throwing, in this case, a trout, and he's in the River Eden in Cumbria. What is he doing there? We didn't know. So I didn't hear anything then about Kevin for nearly a year. And then there was a new project in Scotland, the Clyde, which would be it's in Greenock, it's basically the west coast of Scotland. And Vary had just sent on this email just to the different projects going, I mean, I don't think it's going to be an Irish dolphin, but I'm just sending it just in case. Again, the shock of it. Who is it? Well, it's Kevin. So he has gone from the Shannon to the Boyne to the Merseyside to the Eden and now in Scotland. Then I got a second picture with that sighting, and if you see the dolphin on the left is Kevin, part of his head out, and the dolphin on the right is Jado. He's another Shannon dolphin. He's another old boy, one of my favorites. Cranky, older male. I mean, it's a bit unscientific, but he was cranky. If there was someone tail slapping at me to go away, it was most likely Jado. He would give out to me quite regularly. So there he was. You can see here now, here's the map. There's paler green turquoisey ones. You see here, he was in the Merseyside on the 15th of April. He crossed the Irish Sea again. 9 days later was seen in the Boyne. He crossed the Irish Sea again, and 2 weeks later, he was there in the Eden. There was a mistake on the Scotland sighting. That wasn't 2022, it was 21. So by the end of June, he was in Scotland with Jado. But the thing is, Kevin was alone in the Boyne, the Eden, and the Merseyside. So the question becomes, how do they find each other again? That's going to annoy me forever. Someone figures out how they are doing this. So, and you can see there's a blue dot in Galway. So there is what we call social solitary animals. Fungi would have been the world's most famous social solitary bottlenose dolphin, no question. Everyone knows who this dolphin was. They're basically animals that don't hang out with other dolphins, but they would hang out with humans. Dusty in Clare and the Aran Islands is another one. And this one is Nemo. Now this is in picture Nemo. Nemo would be hanging out in Galway. He'd come back, he'd go off for a while, and then he'd come back again. So he'd been coming quite regularly and consistently for several years to Galway City. Again, more excitement. There's 2 dolphins with Nemo. Nemo's always alone. Why is he suddenly with other dolphins? Finally got pictures in a couple of days later, and who is it but Astral? Astral is Seraphina's younger sibling, and the other dolphin with Astral was Belle, Seraphina's youngest at the time. So had left the Shannon with the aunt or uncle, we don't know if Astral's male or female, and has not come back to the Shannon, has stayed in Galway now with Nemo and wherever he likes to go for part of the winter, and now they've been joined by a third Shannon. So again, without public sightings, without Heather sending me in those pictures, I would not have known that this was Astral or Belle. So again, it just shows the power of citizen science. This is one of my favorite dolphins. This is a dolphin called Sandy Salmon, and you can see that she is disturbingly lying on sand. And she's live stranded, basically. You can see here, this is Dr. Barry O'Donoghue from MPWS. And Joanne O'Brien, Dr. Joanne O'Brien was helping out. They were both doing this, trying to refloat her, basically. You can see that they have covered her skin with wet towels. They will get really bad. The technical term is water dermatitis, which is really sunburn, windburn, and the skin drying out. So that could basically burn off all the skin. So they reacted amazingly to this. They called her Sandy Salmon because she was live stranded on a sandy beach, and you can see the pinky bit on the sand. That's some salmon that she has regurgitated up because of the trauma of being live stranded. They're not designed to be on land. They will basically crush their own organs. They will die. The smaller the dolphin, or the smaller the cetacean, dolphin or whale is, the longer they can go on. But like a whale will actually die pretty seemingly enough. So that was fine. It was a big sandbar, so they couldn't wait. The tide was ebbing, so they got a local farmer to come down with his transport box and his tractor. They popped her in the back of it. Now, when I say popped her, she's 3.5 meter, probably 4.5 for 150 kilo. Didn't pop her like, but you know what I mean? They managed to get her into the transport box, drove it down to the water and got her back in. She wasn't in the catalogue at the time, but they obviously took good pictures of her then, and they tracked her throughout the summer, and she was doing well. And here she is 3 months later with her baby. So she was pregnant when she live stranded. So they didn't just save Sandy, they saved her calf as well. They called the calf then Muddy Mackerel to kind of suit the mother's name. Don't love it because she's a female, so calling her Muddy, but still I'm not changing that one. I can see Muddy here very pale at 1 year of age. Sandy went on to have several more calves. This is her second baby, Comet, her third, Winter. Winter, most of the calves would be born in the late summer, early autumn. So this was unusual. So Barry Keane would be a skipper on the Shannon ferries. He called his wife Stephanie, our stranding officer, and said, there's a new baby down here. So she went down, got some photos. And then John Glynn, a local, got me some more photos from another sighting, because you need a couple of sightings to confirm that that is in fact the mother. They can't hang out with males or their siblings or things like that. So those were those 2 sightings. So I was so excited to get back out on the water then after lockdown and find this baby. And there was Sandy, the first survey out, no baby. So the baby didn't survive. If Barry and John hadn't reported that, we would have had no, and Stephanie go down obviously to take the pictures. We would never have known that that animal exists, because we can't work as much obviously with Irish weather in the winter. So, you know, that again is citizen science and how much we can learn from the sightings that are sent in. This is her most recent calf, 912, and 912 is going well. So 3 out of 4 of her calves have survived, which is generally what the successful mother's rate would be. About 25% will not make it to 5 years of age. And here we have now Muddy with her first calf. So we now have 3 generations of animals that are alive or have ever been born because of the actions of those people. That lady that was walking the beach found Sandy, reported her, you know, Joanne and Barry saving her and the farmer helping. This is all because of people's actions, and it can really make a massive difference. So here she is with her baby. That's Comet in the middle. Sorry, we'll go back one. That's Comet in the background there, her sister, and they are super close. They're the tightest family probably in the whole population. If Comet's not with her mother, she's with her sister. They're always together. She's a great babysitter, really. And this is Sandy's family tree. I've gone back in time. I have found her now as a calf. So that's her mother, 71, her sister, Rue. I had a point there. What was it? This one. Sorry. Well, oh yeah. So this whole line exists now because people had sent this in. That seems to have gone too far. That went to the end. Oh. Okay, that must have been the end of my thought. I had more to put in. Okay, so really the kind of point I'm trying to get across is, I know I've said it several times now, but citizen science, and you can really make a big contribution to the project. And if anyone is ever out on boats or on land, a simple video, you know, held at a landscape and just hold it on the dolphins at a right angle. I got one from Vincent Highland from a group of dolphins down in Cahardaniel in County Kerry. And again, he just held a simple phone onto the dolphins, and I could identify 8 dolphins from that group. So we can definitively say this is Shannon dolphins. So if anyone has any kind of data they would like to send in, I would gratefully receive that.
And just to say that Monday night's webinar was on citizen science, so the recording is up on the website. So we're going to go to Nick now. So welcome, Nick. Our guarantee would be your main soft.
Right. So yeah, my name Nick Massett. I'm based in Ventry here, west of Dingle, and I've been carrying out photo ID work on the humpback whales off the Dingle Peninsula for the last 15 years or so as part of our whale track project. I co-manage the IWDG's humpback whale catalogue with Porrick Hooley, So here's, let's get a picture up. Let's see. Oh, wrong one. Here we go. So here we are in action, photo ID, out in the rib, humpback whale, you know, looking poised there with the camera ready, very professional looking. The only thing is I'm on the wrong end of the humpback. I'm the person who took this photograph, Britta Wilkins, she was on the right end of it. She's going to get, as the humpback lifts its tail, flukes, she's going to get that shot of the underside of the fluke, that all-important shot. I just happened to be on the wrong end of it, down there in the rib, but can't always be in the right place at the right time. So, photo ID. Yeah, get it, like the bottlenose, you know, it's identifying the individual animal. And the great thing with the humpbacks, you know, every tail fluke is unique. You know, they're all different. And again, it's just a fantastic, non-invasive method of identifying and tracking our animals. You know, no animals are harmed in this process as long as you follow the, you know, the whale watch guidelines, keep your distance, get your images without interfering with the animals. It's just the best way, you know. There's no satellite trackers, there's nothing invasive about it. So fantastic. So it was 2009 before I got my first fluke shot of a humpback here in Kerry. Up to that point, I'd always gone, every winter I'd go down to Cork, you know, to go and get my fix of humpbacks down there, go out with Colin Barnes, see Porrick down there. But then middle of the 2000s, we just started seeing humpbacks here. And then in 2009, we got ourselves a rib here. And it was only then that we first started seeing the humpbacks off the coast here. And we're in a position to actually go out and get an ID shot, you know. And so 2009, that was when the very first humpback was documented in Kerry. We hadn't been none actually properly documented with a tail fluke before that. So you can imagine this was a big deal. And went out in the rib. You know, everything we do is informed by what we're seeing from the shore. You know, I spend a lot of time up on Sleigh Head with the scope looking out to sea, and that informs, you know, what basically what we do from there, whether there's any activity out there that's worth going out looking for or what. And obviously then you've got to wait for the right weather window to be able to get out to sea. Because often these animals can be 5, 10, 15 miles offshore. So you're waiting for the weather window too. So anyway, 2009, humpbacks out there, launched the rib, out to sea, managed to find the whale, minor miracle every time. And it was this animal here. And it was fantastic. It was like, yeah, great, we're up close, you know, but not that close, obviously. Whale watch guidelines, 100 meters. But the irony was, it wasn't fluking. And here was our first whale, and it wouldn't tail fluke. Quite often animals won't tail fluke, some don't. And then others, depending on their behavior, they will, they won't. And we were with it for 30 minutes. It didn't fluke once. And it was like, it was a great experience, but look, we didn't get the fluke. And so started to head for home, and just threw a last glance over the shoulder, and kaboom, there we had it. It just started tail slapping. It was like, whether it was like going, yeah, I'm glad you've gone, or whether it was waving goodbye, you wouldn't know. But anyway, it just started tail slapping, and that's when we got the fluke shot, the very first fluke shot of a humpback in Kerry waters. And so this was number 10 on the catalogue. And as you can imagine, I was just delighted to get this shot, get the image, you know, nice detailed shot of the fluke, and to get the common dolphins there in the picture as well, to give a sense of scale of the animal. So all very, very pleased with that, you know, and that's how it all started for me. And you know, I've been doing this ever since. And just following up on the whole citizen science thing, that's me. That's very much what I am. I'm not from an academic background. You know, I didn't do the marine biology degree or anything. I just spend a lot of time out there watching the animals, field work, documenting and, you know, recording everything, and just learning up, reading up on what I can, and basically reading the behavior of the animals from what I see. So anyway, we that's number 10. And number 10, here it is again, and this is just recently. This is off Ballydavid Head. We had a whole run of activity here off the peninsula a month or so back with a nice few humpbacks there, off the Three Sisters, Ballydavid Head. And so great, just great to see this same animal again, looking good, feeding away, trawler in the background there. I was speaking to the skipper at the time, and he was fishing for John Dory, of all things, quite a high value catch. And he was saying he associates the humpbacks with the John Dory. So it's always a good omen for him when he sees the humpbacks. And he'll always keep me informed, which is fantastic. It's nice to have that good relationship with the fishers. You know, it really is. It's nice to have that rapport. So anyway, humpback flukes, they can, you know, this animal, number 48, pretty much all black. You know, it's just got a few actual killer whale rake marks here. Apart from that, the fluke is pure black. This would be what we call a type 5 fluke, all black. And then the other extreme of that is your fluke, which is pretty much all white, which is this animal here. This again is off just off the Three Sisters, on the Dingle Peninsula here. Same period, about just over a month or so ago. Fantastic, with the cliffs as a backdrop there. It's just amazing sight to see the animals there. It really was. And that animal has got, there it is, there's its fluke, beautiful fluke. And again, like with the bottlenose, you know, you can, once you've identified your animal, then you can start asking questions of it. Is it a known animal? Is it a new animal to the catalogue? Where does it come from? What sort of condition is it in? So this is number 23 here, how we usually see it. And this is how it does occasionally turn up as well. You see all this pigmentation on the fluke here. And this is algal diatoms. This is what animals naturally pick up when they're up in the higher latitudes. It's in colder water, they pick these things up. And so straight away, you know, when it turns up like this, we know it's come down from the higher latitudes up in the in the feeding grounds north of us, and that there's animals up there that they need to, something like the killer whales and that spend a lot of time up there. They come down literally to lose that, get that off their skin in our warmer waters, temperate waters. It'll fade away quite quickly. But at this point, we know that it's not long. It's only just arrived from higher latitudes. So you can tell that sort of straight away. On the other hand, here's a flank of, this is number 48. Now these little white marks on its side, these are all little wounds from cookie cutter sharks. And these are relatively fresh. They're healing, but they're relatively fresh. And the cookie cutters are a warm water shark, and so they're down in equatorial waters, and they're little devils. They just take chunks out of the whales just when they're swimming along. Little things, pests. You can imagine swimming along and one of those, something takes a little chunk out of you like that. But anyway, so we know that this animal has arrived not long from equatorial waters, so presumably, the breeding grounds, mating grounds. So it gives us, those are the clues you're looking for once after you've identified an animal. It's like, okay, where have you come from? Where are you going? And you never know with photo ID which animals you're going to find and identify. Back in 2019, I was seeing a lot of whales off the Blasket Islands. So we planned a trip out in the Rib, research Rib, and Simon Barrow, Francis Birmingham, they came down and we had a trip out. And we located 4 humpbacks that day. They were in 2 pairs. This is one of the pairs here now. And of those animals, that we got a shot of this one. This was the first animal that we got a shot of. Fairly, sort of type 1-ish fluke, except it's got a lot of rake marks here. Killer whale rake marks, with the killer whale's been hanging off its tail. And, got the photo ID shot, and I thought, I don't know this whale. We've got our regular whales that we, I know quite a few of them. But this one was a new one to me, and it's like, okay. And the beauty is we've got our catalogue on the, carry it on the phone now. And so you can just flick through the catalogue and see which, see if it's a known animal. And so naturally enough, the catalogue is in numerical order. So pulled up the first fluke on the catalogue, and bingo, there was our animal, number 1 on the catalogue. I was like, holy moly, numero uno, this is amazing. This is number 1. And then the second animal that was with it, it's like, okay, which one's this? Okay, it's not number 1. We've got number 1. Okay, and there it was, number 2 on the catalogue. We had 1 and 2. It was like, yeah, you're joking. You are joking me. And these animals go back 20 years. They were the very first 2 humpbacks on the catalogue back in 1999. They were filmed off the Kinsale gas field. And so then here we are, they've been seen on the odd occasion, since then. But 20 years later, and there they were, still associating, together. So that was just amazing, just incredible to see that, really reassuring to know that they're still alive, they were thriving, they were feeding away, they were in really good condition. hanging out together, and they're still coming back. You know, they're coming back to Irish waters. So, you know, something is working for them here. So that was just fantastic. But it's not always good news when you see an animal. This is number 43 on our catalogue. Here, it looks pretty good. It's in good shape. Fluke's looking good. Just the odd few natural marks on the front edge on the leading edges of the fluke. This was in Dingle Bay. This was in 2020. And then 2 months later, the same animal still in Dingle Bay, and you can see the leading edge of the fluke there, and in the sort of tailstock area there, a lot of abrasion, you know, scarring and abrasions from rope abrasions. So this animal had, you know, an entanglement. Thankfully, it, you know, obviously got out of it. You know, some animals just, you know, die when they're caught up in ropes, in fishing gear. And so, yeah, that was really tough to see that animal that, you know, 1 minute we're seeing it's looking really good, and then, you know, you see it again and it's in pretty rough order. Now these wounds did heal. They don't look pretty, but they did heal. As Max was saying, you know, you know, it's amazing how much they can heal. But it was, yeah, it was tough to see that one, you know. It was been feeding away in Dingle Bay, and there's a lot of fishing gear out there, a lot of crab, you know, pots and all the rest of it. So that had a bit of an incident there. But then on a happier note, this was last week. This is number 130 on the catalogue. A new animal this year, turned up in July with a sort of, there was a cohort of new animals. They just turned up in Dingle Bay. We had 5 new animals come cruising into the bay. It was amazing. You know, everyone a new animal. You know, I was going out getting the fluke shots, and it's like, no, don't know this one, no, don't know that one. So that was 5 more animals added to the catalogue. And it was, yeah, you know, again, animals don't always do that perfect fluke for you. Here it was diving and turning on a bait ball. It was going to feed, going to lunge on a bait ball, and that's why it's in that sort of profile there, half turned. And this is its dorsal fin. Now the thing is, as I say, some animals don't fluke, or you don't get to see the fluke at any given time, and so we always try and get those dorsal shots as well, just in case you don't see the fluke, and we can identify the animal from the dorsals. And this one is nicely marked. There's all this white spotting on the side of it. It's got a couple of barnacles on the dorsal fin itself, which when they drop off, they leave these sort of semicircular, circular scars, white scars. So it's a handy one to be able to identify just from its dorsal fin. And this animal was with another at the time, and which wasn't fluking. And this is the best shot I got on the day. It was the light was fading. It was a very grey day, and this was the best shot I got of it. It was a tricky animal, and very few, there's no real distinguishing marks on it. So pretty much a, generic looking fluke dorsal there. And so we weren't able to identify that one as such. That will just sit there in the sidelines and until we get maybe get another shot of it or whatever. But so here is that, this is 1:30. This was yesterday. I was out yesterday. And there it is again. Still in Dingle Bay, feeding away, which is just fantastic to see. Amazing sight to see humpbacks feeding like that, lunging. Incredible with all the and all the sheer waters there. Amazing sight. They're just incredible animals. So the beauty of being able to identify it there 4 months on from when it was first seen. And what we're doing nowadays as well is getting drone shots of the animals. And I was lucky when it first came into Dingle Bay. I took some drone footage of this animal, 1:30 at the time, and yesterday out again, and it was like conditions were pretty good for flying the drone. So once I'd identified the animal, made sure it was, that's 1:30 again, put the drone up and got this drone shot again. And so this is fantastic because now this gets passed on to Miguel, who's doing his PhD on the humpbacks. And one of his projects is the photogrammetry of the humpbacks, just assessing the body mass, the body condition of the animals. And so what we were able to do, is with this shot, Miguel's already had a look at this and came back to me straight away and said, this animal has put on condition since it's been here. In the 4 months it's been feeding away in Dingle Bay, it's put on mass, it's put on body mass. So that's just freaking fantastic, because there's one thing to say the animals are here, they're feeding, but when you can turn around and go, okay, I haven't seen the figures that that Miguel's come up with yet, but when you can turn around and say, and that this animal has put on whatever percentage of body mass in the time it's here, then that's just real good, solid data on, robust science on how important our feeding grounds are to the animals. It really is. It's just, fantastic. And, we see these sort of residences, the animals here, up in Donegal Bay, this autumn, there's been animals up there. There's, I think 102 has been up there for the last 3 months, feeding away solidly. We see this time and time again. So, it's just great to be documenting that too. And here we go. What do we got here? So this is of the Three Sisters. That's Bindirmada. The catalogue stands at 135 animals now. The Irish Humpback catalogue. 135 animals. This year we identified 24 across countrywide, 24 humpbacks this year. Of those, 9 of those were new to the catalogue. So sort of 37% of the of the animals were new to the catalogue. I think last year it was something like 33% were newbies. Yeah, and that's sort of typical of where things are at. So
we had a question about the 5 new animals that turned up. Did they turn up together?
They did. Yeah, they all basically turned up at the same time. They didn't all come cruising in formation of, but they turned up in Dingle Bay at pretty much all on the same date, and within like these associations, humpbacks can communicate over huge distances, and so like when you see those 5 animals were probably all within a mile or 2 of each other, and so that's some of them would pair up, feed together, but that's they're all in loose association. So what I was going to say there, just very much the same as Mags, to follow up on what she said, is like, anyone can contribute to this project. If you get if you're lucky enough to be in the position of seeing a humpback, get a picture, report the sighting, send the pictures in, and we can see if it's an animal we know, whether it's new to the catalogue or whatever else, and it just becomes, you'll get hooked, and it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating once you start determine individual animals and their movements and their behaviors. It just fascinating. Yeah. So that's very
and just on Miguel's research, so that was last night's webinar. He spoke a bit about that, so that's up on the website as well. And then tomorrow evening will be at the same time of 6 p.m. and that will be about acoustics. So that's a question there, and I don't think there's any other questions. I know we're kind of running a little bit over. Just maybe quickly, Mags, how many individuals are in the Shannon dolphin population estimated?
There's surveys, MPWS would have to do a survey on them every 3 years because they're a protected species in an SAC. They were the qualifying interest for that SAC, the Shannon. So the belief was always about, same estimates were kind of coming out in around the 140. But we know this is not true, because I've had up to 187 animals photographed in the year. I'm not delusional enough to think that I got them all. That's how that goes. So you're talking at least 200, because like if we weren't serving Dumbeg and past Brandon Point and down in Dingle, like it's the same animals that are in Dingle. They're kind of going between Dingle and Dumbeg. They're more the outer edge of the range. So if I'm not getting them, then I'm not getting the whole population. And
Mags, if somebody wanted to send in photographs or videos, or
you can send them anyway to me. I would accept a carrier pigeon at this stage. Do you know what I mean?
So if they're bottlenose dolphins,
if it's a picture or a video of a bottlenose dolphin, I don't care where it is. I don't care how long
send them to you directly, mags.daily@iwdg.ie.
Or we have our social media platforms. We have our own page as well. It's the Shannon Dolphin Project. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Or 2 is enough. I don't keep up with those 2, never mind the other ones. So again, WhatsApp, email, send it through the sighting scheme. You could send me a letter like we're back in the 90s. I honestly
but do report things on the on the sighting scheme as well, because that's it. Yeah, we get all the details of a sighting. Then that's
like, but some people mightn't have, just say like they might have the exact location or the date. It could be a picture from 15 years ago. But like if I can see Brandon Point, or it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? If you have a general idea where you were, obviously you when you're doing analysis, then you kind of downgrade. There's a difference between the data you collect on a Transect dedicated survey. Do you know what I mean? So you would give them the different levels, but it's all important. It all contributes, and it all definitely adds to our understanding of their movements.
Brilliant. So I just want to finish with a big thank you to Nick. Thank you so much, Nick. Amazing photographs. Thank you to Mags. Tomorrow's webinar, as I mentioned, is on acoustic, so that will be the link will go up online tomorrow. So that will be 6 p.m. We have an in-person talk on Friday in the Culturland Sweeney in Kilkee, which will be a panel of us discussing different topics. That's from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then Saturday and Sunday, we have the open days in the Shannon Dolphin Centre here in Kilrush, which will be from 11 to 3. So that's great. Thanks so much, everybody, and hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.